This is your 1-minute warm-up for your Q&A mock at 225 words a minute. Ready? Your name is Fred Riley, is that correct?
That's right.
Where do you live, Mr. Riley?
I live in apartment C1, Georgetown Apartments.
All right, sir, and what is your occupation?
For the past 3.5 years, I have managed Georgetown Apartments.
All right, sir, and I believe before that you were with Ballard Mills?
Some 21 years.
Yes, sir. All right, sir, and you know Miss Andrews?
Very well.
And do you know Mr. Bradford?
Yes, I do.
All right, sir, I believe they both lived at Georgetown Apartments for a period of time?
That's correct.
All right, sir, and do you recall the incidents surrounding the date of May 22, 1975?
I do not know the date.
All right, sir. Do you recall learning from Miss Andrews some events at her apartment on the night of on or about May 22nd?
Miss Andrews reported it to me approximately 9 o'clock the next morning.
All right, sir. If you would, describe for us where that took place and how it was done.
How it was done?
Yes. Where were you when you learned of this from Miss Andrews?
In the office. We have an office in the community building.
Yes, sir. If you would, tell us what was said in the office.
Well, it was very...
Okay, this is your Q&A mock at 225 words a minute. Your proper names are Phyllis Jean Smith, Cool Ridge, Route 21, Route 19, Ann Cole, James Cole, Phyllis Smith, John Taylor, Tiny, 38, and Sue. Ready? Now, do you know a lady by the name of Phyllis Jean Smith?
Yes, I do.
How is it that you know her? Well, over the years, how have you gotten to know her? Did you go to school with her?
No, I met her through my wife.
Do you remember about how long ago that was?
That was probably about 4 years ago.
Do you remember where she lived at that time?
Beside her mother out at Coolridge.
About how far is that from where you live?
Roughly about 2 miles.
Now, is your house on the road or Route 21 or near it? Is it located right in front of the road?
Route 19, yes.
Oh, I meant Route 19. About how far from the road is that house itself located?
It's probably 60 feet away from the highway itself.
Were you living at that address in August of 1983?
Yes, sir.
Was your wife living there also?
Yes, sir.
And your daughters?
That's right.
Do you know the defendant in this case, Ann Cole?
Yes, I do.
And do you know the other defendant in this case, James Cole?
Yes, I do.
And how long have you known them?
I'd say about the same period of time as I've known Phyllis. I've seen them, but as far as knowing them by name, it's probably about the same.
About 4 years?
Yes.
Does Phyllis Smith stay at your house frequently? By stay, I mean stay overnight.
Just once in a while. I don't even have any idea how many times. Maybe 10 nights altogether, or maybe not that many. I don't really know. A lot of times I worked down at the shop until late, and I'd come in and sleep on the couch or whatever, and I didn't even know what was taking place at the house.
You worked late often?
Yes, sir.
Now, on August the 3rd of 1983, do you recall if Phyllis Smith was at your house that day or the days before?
As far as the date, I couldn't swear to anything, but I remember the day she was there. Yes, sir.
Now, there's been testimony that Phyllis Smith was injured. Did you see her the day before she was injured?
I'm not really sure. I remember that night when I came home. I can't remember what time it was or anything. A friend of mine came by and he was having problems with his wife, and he came upstairs and sat down and was talking, and she was in the basement with the kids and they had the stereo on downstairs.
Was it dark at this time, if you can recall?
I can't really remember. It was pretty close to it, I would say. I usually don't close up at work until about dark anyway.
It was summertime. Was it warm?
Yes, sir.
And were you on the porch of your house?
No. At that time, we came in and was sitting in the kitchen table.
What was your friend's name?
John Taylor. Tiny is what everybody calls him.
What was his condition, if you were able to determine?
His condition all the time is about half drunk. So he was 3/4 and he was talking about shooting himself that night. Him and his wife were having trouble.
Was his wife with him?
No, sir.
Were his children with him?
No, sir. Now, I think one other time he had brought his children and wife up to the house, and I think Phyllis was there. But that night, he was by himself.
Do you know if the next day Phyllis Smith went to the hospital?
Yes.
Were you present when she went to the hospital or was taken to the hospital?
No, sir. I went on to work that morning. I told my wife to call her mother that night after she had gotten so bad that she was falling all over the place. I told my wife to call her mother and tell her what was going on.
That was on the night of August the 3rd, the night before she went to the hospital?
That's right.
Falling all over the place. Could you explain that to the jury, what you mean by that? What did you observe or see?
Well, first of all, I couldn't understand her. She couldn't talk all that plain.
Were you in the kitchen at this time?
Yes. She came upstairs. She was in her basement and she came up into the kitchen. She sat down there and she tried to talk and her words were really slurred and all. I asked my wife then how much she had drank. She had a .38 pistol she pulled out and was waving that around.
Where did she pull that out from?
Out of her purse.
Was she drinking anything?
Well, she was drinking beer. I don't know how much she drank or anything. She took some green capsules out and she took a couple with the beer.
Who else was in the kitchen at that time when she took the pills?
I don't know that anybody was other than the three of us.
Did you ask her what kind of pills they were or find out what kind of pills they were?
She gave some kind of medical name for them and it seemed like her and Tiny knew what they were talking about. He called them green pills.
Now, after she took those pills, what happened?
Well, she was just obnoxious. Tiny had a lot of problems that night, and he and I went into the living room, and she followed us into the living room. Me and him went ahead talking, and she sat in the chair. She hollowed for my wife, and then she stood up. When she stood up, she fell. I saw her fall, and the way she fell, she just kind of melted down. And by that time, my wife, Sue, had come upstairs, and she helped Phyllis into the bedroom.
Where did she fall? On the floor?
Yes. Well, she didn't really fall. She just kind of melted down, rolled out of the chair onto the floor.
What did you do then?
Well, me and Tiny went ahead talking and what all, and in about 5 minutes, I heard her holler for Sue again.
Where was she when she hollered for Sue again?
This was in the front bedroom of our house.
She hollered for Sue again. Then what happened?
It sounded like she fell. By that time, my wife had come back in to see what